You're tuning into an episode of the Audio Signals podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. In this new season, Audio Signals is repositioning its antennas, focusing not just on the stories, but on the storytellers. In our modern hybrid analog-digital society, the art of storytelling has never been more vital or displayed such a diverse array of forms. Recognizing this, our conversations will spotlight the narrators, providing a unique exploration into the minds behind the narratives. From authors to podcasters, visual artists to songwriters, and everything in between, we will engage with all who contribute to this extraordinary form of art. Let's all pay attention now, as this story is about to begin.
And here we go. It's another Audio Signal podcast. I have been telling in the last couple of episodes that this was a comeback for me because I almost wanted to stop to have this podcast. It's not where I make my money, it's not where I make my living, it's where I have my passion, which is storytelling. And I tried for 3 months and I keep getting pitches of amazing guests that I could have talked to. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. It's a thing that I love to do. And today I'm extremely excited because we're gonna touch a medium that we haven't really covered much. A lot of it's been about books, being with like songs, writers, music, and today we're gonna talk about cinematography and we're gonna talk about photography, but we're gonna talk about writing as well. So I think we're just gonna talk at 360 about storytelling, and I'm extremely excited because my guest today is Densham. I hope I didn't ruin your last name. Being Italian, I tend to.
Thank you.
I did well. Okay, good. That's a good start. and I am, like I said, I'm excited to talk about your career. Excited to talk about your vision. Before we hit record, you told me that you even had some learning experience with Marshall McLuhan, which I studied back in college a few years ago now. And so I'm sure that you have a lot to say about storytelling and mass media and communication. So I've spoken enough. Pen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marco. I'm touched when you say the word passion. That's sort of like electrifying.
It drives me.
And it's such a magic thing because I've noticed when I'm writing screenplays, there are two kinds of screenplays. There's the ones that are archetyped to fit some kind of commercial, desire from a studio, and then there's the ones that have come to me and I've written them, and I call them life scripts because. And they don't come in necessarily cognitive whole. Sometimes you get clues or you get a complete sense that something is going to come out of you, and then you pursue it and you try and find spaces for it to come. And those scripts that I wrote out of passion, even though they didn't seem necessary to fit the market, got made more frequently than the ones I wrote when I was architecting to hit goals for a studio. I wrote a version of Gulliver's Travels with Arnold Schwarzenegger attached for the studio, and the studio head said, it's a really good script. I don't know why I'm not going to make it. And you go, oh, there's a year of my life. And, when I wanted to write Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, I had this, I'd had the privilege of having a child with my wife and son and looked at the world that he was going to grow up in. And I'd worked with Sylvester Stallone and there was Schwarzenegger at that time making movies about killing and succeeding in killing. And I called those people the takers of life. And for me, Robin Hood was about altruism and people that were willing to die if necessary for the future of their peasants' children. And I called those the takers of life. And I went around and pitched my Robin Hood to TriStar, Disney, and the Geffen Company, and they all said, that's the stupidest idea we've ever heard. No one wants to see guys with swords. They want to see guys with guns. And inside my own company, there wasn't necessarily a lot of support for it, but our assistant said, I think it's a really cool idea. If you start writing it, I'll do my best to support you. So I wrote it on spec because my soul needed to express it. And I don't believe in corniness, but it just, this sense that there was something that I had to explore in me and to find. And the end result was a script with my partner John's help that became one of the biggest grossing movies of the year, and totally unexpected, because I thought I was writing a Pyrrhic victory. I thought I was just teaching myself not to fail at doing what my emotions needed me to do. And, you know, as a vulnerability, the vulnerability of creativity is, I think, that we're omnidirectional thinkers, and we can actually, cloud ourselves with all the options, and the stupid person goes by with their one idea and succeeds. So I always like to surround myself by a community of people that I can check in with, who I call story midwives, who are not agenderized, not telling you what sex the child has to be, but are just trying to help you push through the pain of birth and check you in and say, yeah, it wasn't crazy getting pregnant. It's all right. Don't worry.
There is a lot of things that you throw in there in this short background of yours, and the movie that kind of changed your career, because you were already writing at the time, I understand, but this was kind of like that Hollywood moment that allowed you, I guess, more freedom in terms of
a lot of doors. Absolutely.
Right? But I like the idea that you distinguish the fact that sometimes you have to do something that is creative, and I've done advertising and branding, so it's like I try to tell a story, but I have an objective, a commercial objective in a way.
Right.
So you are in a certain frame, and then sometimes as an artist you say, I have no frame, I have a tabula rasa, as the Latin version of the white paper, and you just give your, like Hemingway say, you cut your vein and you let it bleed. But then there is also the thing, and I think this is the beginning of the conversation, that when you tell a story, there is the story that you tell, but there's also how people listen and interpret your story. And I don't know, maybe something happened in the Robin Hood movie that you didn't expect it, but I guess the public saw something that was magical.
Yeah, and you go back to, my overview is that my whole life has been around film. My folks made short films when I was 4 years old, and I wrote an alligator in one when I was, when their movie went out with Africa Queen, and I fell in love with cameras and storytelling, because from that age I felt like I was the Mickey Mouse and the Wizard in Fantasia, watching the Wizard, and I wanted to do that. Holy shit, wave that wand and there's magic out there. Yeah. And I'm still in love with trying to make stories and photography change the way people perceive themselves, and to discover ways of being purposeful. And so working with Marshall McLuhan, because he was an open thinker, he would talk about, why is an audience watching a movie in a trance state? Go look at the people around you, he'd say, and you'll see they're moving their lips with the characters' speeches on the screen, expressions mimicking. And it made me very conscious of biology in storytelling, because what we're actually doing, apparently, is we're setting off our mirror neurons, watching the characters performing and evaluating their strategies and putting them back into our own heads as possible options for our own lives to succeed. And then you go to Joseph Campbell, who was this guy that did all the studies of all the legends and parables and myths. And he's saying that there is, with his book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces, there's really only one story. And so I've come to believe that surrendering to instincts puts you in a place where you're telling biologically things which humans have evolved over 200 million years to use, so that they can create a better sociological place for their young to raise up in. And now I'm at a place where I'm doing an enormous amount of very impressionistic, very freeing photography on nature, because I'm now trying to tell a story of how we feel when we see nature. The things that are so familiar to us tend to blind us, because we drive home the same route every day. We don't see it anymore. So I'm with great passion trying to use my camera to take us to see nature, trees, coy waves with a vibration in them that alerts us again to our own inner biological instincts of being a part of this extraordinary experience of being alive.
So Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message, right? So we're talking about 3 different mediums here, and probably more that you have experience. But in particular, the writing, like I said at the beginning, then you took the camera and you experienced that. And so you use more senses in a way, I guess. You drive more senses biologically in other people because you show the image and you tell the story and the language and the music, which is very important in the movie. Yep. And now you decided to go into a static, no sound, no words at all. So take this challenge.
I all my life I've loved photography, but it wasn't until I watched my daughter making use of my cameras, I'd sort of given up on my stills photography. And she was using my still cameras, and her images were untrained, and they were poetic, and they were focused in strange ways, and she chose odd subjects. And I realized that all my life I've been trying to get photography right, that there's the atoms of it, and you're replicating a tree, and you're supposed to hold the camera still, you shoot an image. And on an unlike film where you have to get thousands of people together or millions of people to watch it, or you have to get teams of people to support it, photography was this free opportunity for me to personally explore and express something. So I went from very linear, very articulate, but not good in a sense of being experiential photography, to this slowly letting go and saying, what if I move the camera? What if I shoot with long exposures? What if I shoot coy, but I'm shooting coy right through blinding sunlight? What happens in the fragmentation? And you just get small visual dances. And when you say I'm shooting a silent thing, interesting thing is it's not silent in my head. I'm actually creating visual music if I'm lucky. And I constantly experiment, constantly say, what if? I'll go to a beach and it's dusk and the last light, and I'll say, what does my body want to do? Not what should I do, but what, and I might shoot 1 second exposures moving with the waves, and the sun has already gone down, and you just get these beautiful forms that one has to look at and recognize that I don't know what these are yet. Mm-hmm. And as I look at them on my editing systems, I'm not trying to, and I don't have Photoshop. I wouldn't know how to use Photoshop. I'm an analog guy. I'm trying to see and recognize the beauty in them, and then I will change contrast or add sharpness or add a little saturation to bring them up from the raw. But what I'm really doing is recognizing imagery that has come to me, gifts in a way, and then trying to bring it out and amplify it and share it. And I'm awestruck by the images I'm creating once I gave up trying to do what was the dogmas of photography.
So there are some people that says that, and I heard this from musicians, but I think it applies to everybody, that in order, and I don't know who said it first, but who knows, in order to break the rules, you need to know the rules. So you can't go out there and just swing it, right? I mean, I think there's people it's just natural to do something like that. But in your case, you knew the rule, you knew the photography, and you did the cinematography, and you decided to let it go because... Is that something that gives you even more freedom and that idea of freedom, but it's still a control freedom? I don't know if I'm coming through.
It's a fascinating question, Marco. The biggest effort was letting go of self-criticism, thinking this is these are stupid. I went to India with my wife and toured with another filmmaker friend who runs tours through India, and I determined not to shoot anything but experiential images. And that means I'm sitting with a group of people all traveling India, and I'm shaking my camera, and they're all looking at me thinking, "What's this moron doing?" But what happens is you disrupt and what one anticipates. So you see a street scene, and it's full of people wearing these gorgeous colors, and suddenly there are 4 or 5 synchronized images from the same person. And as you look at it, your brain is now processing parallel concentrations of what these things are and what they mean to you, as opposed to looking at it and just gestalting, oh, that's a shot of a woman in India. And this disruption of perspective causes someone said it bypasses the verbal and gets into the unconscious. And that's what my photography is doing, is it's bypassing expectations and putting the viewer in some kind of personal Rorschach test with the image, and it causes more interplay because it isn't familiar and it isn't. But at the same time, I fight for my pictures to be uplifting, to be joyful, to be full of energy and vibrant, and stun myself. Really kind of surprised how far I got, and I don't see anybody else doing it. So I may be Van Gogh. I may be sending you my ear someday.
You know, I've seen some of your pictures that have been sent, a collection of them, and I saw the waves one. I was particularly actually moved by the waves one, because to me those reminded me, you know, being Italian, you know, the impressionist, or the macchiaioli, as we called it in Florence, where I'm from. And there's always that idea that you see and you don't see. You kind of have to, you know,
Yep.
you see an emotion. It's like kind of like what you're doing with those kind of images. And then you go with the kaleidoscopic one,
Yeah.
the one that, like you said, they almost look like Roches and almost like mirror one another. And when you say you don't use Photoshop, I would love to know how you do those images.
That's a
Those
straight.
are easy to do on Photoshop, but
That's a panoramic stitching program that is so simple a child could use it, and I'm therefore capable of using it.
you can do that. So that's
Yeah.
not a, yeah. So, but it was like, what is your inspiration for that kind of style? Were you, I don't know, some painters or other photographer? I'm not saying what you do is not unique, but we all get inspired by something.
Well, I'm inspired by Pollock and Monet and Turner. I'm not an expert on art, but you know, when you look at a Monet, it's humbling because I snap a picture, you know, and this guy spends hours putting over these wonderful fabrics of vision using light, and so I have a tremendous respect. But at the same time, in my world, photography is considered art. So you know, I'm not wrong to celebrate the things that I'm finding, but that goes back to this thing of just yearning to cast spells. And even when I was very young, I was walking around with a camera all my life. I sold my first article to a London, to actually a national photography magazine, which was reflections of myself in various surfaces, distorted or and I wrote an article called "Go Shoot Yourself" at 16 and got published. And I was never satisfied with a plain, ordinary image. I wanted, like Philippe Hausman. I photographed all my friends at school jumping in the air and sold the local newspaper pictures of all of us jumping in the air. And it was called Spring in the Air. It was on the first day of spring, and never settling on just being a reporter of images, but trying to make them larger and more fascinating. And as I said, I got banal after a while in my photography. I just didn't. But I was finding I was lucky enough to move to Canada, and I quit school at 15 because I was feeling being processed, and went to Canada at 19 thinking I was a washed up failure, but found a country that was willing to invest in people my age and give us grants to go make movies. And it was staggering. And I put together a group of friends, and we had this hippie commune that that I founded and worked with a guy called John Watson. And at 22, we started our own film company. And at that point, there was actually markets for 16mm movies, and the Canadian government television would actually give us money to go make short little films. And we were given this incredible freedom. We were broke. We had holes in our shoes. We would go and shoot something and freeze the footage till we could afford to process it. But we were able to experiment and make artistic movies. But it was show business. We had to sell them. And we learned that you had to get awards because people didn't know what was good or bad. But if you won an award, that then meant they have a justification to. We ended up getting 2 Oscar nominations, but it was a deliberate process of learning. We always thought that the awards companies came and found you. We didn't know that you had to enter them. And then when we started entering them, we realized that our films had to have flourishes, had to be visually full of energy, and so that same desire in filmmaking is with me. And I say I make movies, not talkies. Even if I'm making a film, I made a film on Houdini. It's all the magic, but at the same time, it's also the consciousness. Here's a man who's put his whole life on the line, risking himself all the time. And I wrote it as a love story where a man oversteps the love of his wife, constantly looking for adulation from others. I wrote a line in it where she says, "I could clap till my hands bled, Harry, but it wouldn't be enough." And the movie became a love story, which was in many ways a statement of my own life with my wife, which is that we in this film build constantly look for the big break, the adulation, the desire to be able to do something that gives you some status. At the same time, my wife is with me the whole time, and she's willing to take the risk of me not earning money while I'm writing screenplays that don't necessarily have a market. And my movie on Houdini ends up where he's actually at his 10th anniversary seance that his wife and he had made a pact that in the event of his death, he would try and communicate from beyond the grave. And my ending of the movie was that she's at a seance and she's given up. She said there'll be no more seances, and he's actually present as a spirit, but he was looking to come and break the boundaries of God to show what an egotistical, powerful person he was. And then he sees her crying and realizes the only thing he really wants to do is comfort her, and that she is able to see him. And when they first met each other, they were 16, and he bought a ring for her with the word "believe" in it. Mm-hmm. And as she's leaving on her own, he calls after her and says, "Bess, Bess," and she doesn't move. She doesn't respond. He says, "Bess, does it matter if I'm imagining you or you're imagining me? Believe what's in the ring." And she turns and sees him. And I had to write that story because it so empowered me with some kind of personal emotion, my cry at the end of this thing. And that's one of those examples of writing something that had no market. I just had to write the Houdini story. And I love magic because I think we're like Méliès. We're the magicians of our age. We're the shaman of our age. We're trying to interpret society in ways that people can learn and change based on the characters themselves, making their own choices. And what I also am always fascinated by is that this mouth mimicry. Children from the time they're born mimic the motions and the mouth movements of people around them, and it's so that we can process being in a society, so that we can actually have like a telepathy, and so we can fit into society. We carry this concept of society in us, and it breeds for morality. Because a stable society is the only one we can actually raise our young in. And so over these, hundreds of or thousands of years and generations, we, in order to live in groups, had to find ways of exchange and win-win. And we have the outliers, we have the thieves and the bad guys, but we will then go and fix them. And we make movies TV shows called Law and Order, where the bad guy rips the fabric of society, and we send in the worker bees, and they catch them and stop it, and they sew up society again. And we repeat that story over and over again because it's vital to our survival. And I don't know where or why those things so fascinate me, but it does come from those original discussions with McLuhan, causing me to go and think, what is the purpose of stories? What is and I think stories are healing.
Yeah. And there's definitely a lot of Campbell in there as well, kind of like when we repeat in every fairy tale and the moral of the story. And we have used stories to educate children, as you said, for the longest time. But we also, I think, is also a way to reflect on ourselves. I actually write kids' story with my mom. She started when she was 70, so kind of like it's an experiment. And the thing is, you try to be original, but you also try always to give a lesson or a moral of the story of what it should be, because they are, as you say, we are kind of pre-wired for that. Like the oral storytelling, then in the writing, then the visual.
Well, your point earlier was, we're designed to turn everything into stories.
Yeah.
Weather is a story. Gossip is a story. I was talking with a student the other day who's working as a journalist student, and it occurred to me what really journalism is: telling stories to the community so that people can adjust their behaviors and make choices. And that magic of it is that it's all contributing to ourselves. And there's this theory, which is, Joseph Campbell says we constantly need to reinvent our myths to fit the times that we're in. And some of our myths have become ossified, because I think when people started writing down the Bible stopped changing. And so we're now locked into telling moral stories, which are vital, but some of them now don't necessarily have the same logic system of being present in our own zeitgeist. And so that's where I think movies and novels and even these podcasts that you're doing, this is story. This is speaking to the community, and maybe giving influences that can, heal others or give other people a sense of encouragement and direction. And encouragement is also very powerful to me. Kindness is powerful to me.
Yeah. And also you said that you like to inspire through your work other people in taking chances. Obviously your life is a lot of taking chances until you find the right, but then you didn't stop. You could have I got the cookie cutter for success, like a lot of people do, and other they like to push the limit, inspired by their passion for things. It's like it's never perfect enough. Leonardo da Vinci never really finished the Mona Lisa. Well, for him, it was never done.
That's actually a strange thing, Marco, because I'm in Hollywood, even after my company and my partner, we had a company for 10 years in Canada, because Norman Jewison reached out and saw a film that I'd made and said, I would like to mentor you into Hollywood. And one of the things I try and do now is give back, because I was given that opportunity. Plus, I lost my mother when I was 8. My brother and my sister went into a really difficult time. My father was not particularly supportive. We had a stepmother who was alcoholic and took drugs, the medical drug speed that was called Dronamil back then. Our home was fucking awful. Excuse me. I'm not allowed to.
You are allowed.
I was even put in orphanages while she tried to get rid of us. And I was accused of being a big ego, and that the desire to take photographs or to be special was tried to be drummed out of me. And it just gave me a strong sense of wanting to support others because of the vulnerabilities of creative people. And so I love being able to try and prove that I'm not that special, that I make a lot of mistakes. I have wonderful scripts that never got made. And you shouldn't look at me as some kind of big success story, but look at me as somebody who has survived because I never lost my passion, I've also tried to help others, tried to be moral, and I've tried to find a purpose to my life by telling stories that I felt were, valuable. I was able to help bring the Harriet Tubman story to the screen. I think she's extraordinary and such an example of an underdog who can change the world. And we did a story about a Medal of Honor winner who died trying to save men in Vietnam, and he saved like 30 or 40 people. He was a paramedic and demanded to be loaded into a group of soldiers that were surrounded. And again, those altruistic stories, I think, are profoundly valuable and worthy of putting, my life energy into. And I stopped writing for the studios. I was so tired of writing things that I thought were special and had my heart in them. And then the studio system, with the best will in the world, is like the Pentagon. It wants to fight the last war. And they would look and say, well, that's too novel. We can't do that. Or, I had scripts that I actually got financed, but they wouldn't let me direct them. And so I started just writing for myself, and probably could have stayed at a much higher income level, but it was heartless, learning how to write on the possibility of getting things made. And the photography is the freedom. No studios, no budgets, no rewrites. It costs me nothing to go explore as deeply as I want. And if I'm lucky, maybe other people will see something in there that touches them and ignites some kind of emotions. And maybe I'll find places where these can be shared and people will enjoy them. But it's been the most amazing personal journey, and one of, as I said before, immense self-criticism, letting go of all those rules, those which you absorb unconsciously. This is the right way to do a podcast. Who knows what the right way to do, but you got to do these steps. Well, and what happens if you don't do those steps? And my God, you can't do that because people think you're nuts or it's not going to work. And so 17 years ago, when my daughter and I had that I have been on this journey of letting go and constantly fighting to stop the criticism and the self-analysis of that's not right, this isn't good, this is not photography, this is, as I'm letting go and discovering these images that I never dreamed I could make. I'm making images that blow my mind.
I love that. It's very hard as an artist. You need to make a living, obviously, unless, there are many artists that in history that died poor.
Yeah, I think it's no mistake that people that are doing new things don't necessarily have markets.
Right. And then maybe they become really famous after they're dead. Van Gogh could be an example. Others know how to monetize much better, like a Picasso, for example. But there is that balance where it doesn't sound like you're, I'm going to use a hard word, but prostituting yourself, your art, right, for the money. You do it for love, but love may not pay your bills. So I think a lot of people are either taking the shortcut and sacrificing the art of it. But do you think there is a balance between the two?
Going back to trying to mentor people, one of the things I observed was that the education system of the best will in the world is not teaching you how to sell yourself. And that if you have something novel and different, if you've been able to imagine something and then create it out of thin air and pure kind of like the magic of creativity, the system doesn't teach you how to sell it. And yet we as artists then become responsible for trying to, and I call it build a bridge backwards. It's that you can't criticize your buyer. What you have to do is find ways of helping them understand what you've created. And the vulnerability is that this system that we educate people under doesn't teach entrepreneurism. It doesn't teach confidence building. It doesn't teach how to describe your work in ways that your buyer will see them as personal values. And I wrote a book on screenplay writing, the book I wanted to have read when I was starting out, writing, because when we came to Hollywood, I was sure I was never going to be any good. There were all these professionals and real people writing screenplays, and I was this church mouse that, had managed to stumble in. My imposter syndrome was, I'd done this 20-minute short film, 25-minute short film that won all these awards, and it was an accident. No, I'm not supposed to really be here. And then we watched the studios hiring people to write stories for us, and realized, God, we wait 8 months for some guy to write a script, and it's awful. And our whole careers are on hold while they're doing that. Heck, I could have done better than that. So at least I'm not as bad as I thought I was. And what I wanted to do was then help other people, younger people, or people that are equally creative but don't have the tools, because I came up through the school of hard knocks. And if we didn't sell our movies, we had to go work for other people, and that was horrible. So the idea of helping others by giving them confidence to sell themselves, to see systems. We talked Kodak into putting on a course in Canada for filmmakers, because the Kodak rep would come around and embarrass us all the time trying to sell us more film stock. And we couldn't afford to buy more film stock because we didn't have any money to make any movies. Right. So I said to him, well, if you guys taught us how to sell movies, then maybe we could you could sell more film stock. And that was like learning to be a car salesman, or it was like, learning to be a carny or something. It was like, you're not supposed to know how to sell, because and what it did actually was open tools, define a need, eliminate the objections, which is look at your buyer with sincerity, try and find things that they need that you can help provide them with, or describe what you have in terms that they will value, but that's the same thing that you have, but it's explained to them in ways they see their own needs in it, and then help them through the process of eliminating the objections, which is take a sincere interest in finding what it is that's preventing them from making a choice that's positive, and see if you can solve those problems. And that's salesmanship.
Yeah, and artists don't like to do their own sales, either because they don't know how, or because they feel like that's not what they're supposed to do. They're just supposed
none of us want to do our own sales. So I want that magic agent to go out and sell me and boast about me, because I'm kind of shy, and I'm not certain I'm any good. I'm still not certain I'm any good. So having an agent and an authority figure sell for you is great, but then you're only able to sell the things he believes in, and that locks you into sometimes being sold on the least effective emotionally, because they understand something. And so then you come back to, now I have to sell my agent. If I don't sell my agent on getting him excited about the things I want to create, then I'm not going to actually get to be able to fulfill myself. And it sounds like a really complicated process, but as I say, I'm not smarter than anybody else. But like Einstein said, I stay at things longer. I've been doing this a long time, and doing it on self-initiated projects, and coming back again to finding values in it. I'm so proud. I personally was able to bring back The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits to television, and we did 165 Outer Limits stories, and every one is a parable about human nature. Everyone is a value story about human beings, so that you can contemplate your own life choices through these characterizations. And, science fiction or fairy tales, it's the same thing. We're just using fantasy elements to put people in situations where the lens of the story structure is causing people to be heated up and move very quickly under that sunlight, and making them play out so that we can look at ourselves and make choices about what we would do under those circumstances, unconscious choices.
Yeah. Well, I would like to go into the new creator economy with you. We don't have the time. Maybe you'll come back, or how you view AI, or or social media.
About an open doorway. Whoa, AI! Wow. Talk about what would McLuhan think of AI would be the
but I don't want to go there. But this is an open invitation. If you wish and come back, I would love to have an entire episode
I'd
on
love to learn what
storytelling.
you're doing this all the time. You're at a nexus point of all these people and all these things that are going on. I'd love to know more about what your philosophy is about the future and where we're going and how humanity is going to evolve.
Yeah.
And I hope it's, I love the word humankind, and I hope the emphasis is on kind.
Yes, for sure. Listen, we'll definitely need to keep talking. But for this episode, I would like to wrap it with your photography. And one thing that I got from all the things that you said is this new freedom that you found, a new old medium, because you used it when you were a kid and then you went back to it, but with an entire experience of life, of creativity, of storytelling. And what I'm fascinated by photography, and I have in mind this idea because I'm very visual, of you moving the camera in India and getting all these circles of color, maybe from a beautiful dress and the texture or whatever. But you capture it in one shot. And I think that's the hard part of being a photographer. And at the same time, the easy part, because like you say, you don't need lighting, you don't need cameras and set people. You can just like get inspired in a moment and you make it happen. You can get lucky, or you can be very good at actually creating that lucky moment, because it's too easy to say, well, you got lucky. No, you actually shot the camera. Your feeling about this, just to wrap it up,
sure.
Of like carpe diem, I don't know, capture the moment, whatever you want to call it.
It's because I yearn to communicate through this medium that I love in a way that leaves people an object on a wall that they can live with every day, and it tells a story to them emotionally that hopefully makes them feel like being alive, the magic of being all atoms, the magic of quantum entanglement, the magic of billions and billions of galaxies, the magic of we've been here for 4 billion years and we came from the oceans, that all those things are somewhere in that. And if I can open up people to seeing themselves in a special way, and I would be so grateful if I managed to do that. And I think that's what art is. If I can be, and somebody said that my pictures are very full and energetic, and I think it's because I'm trying to make a movie in a single photo.
That's tough. Imagine that, a movie in a single photo. It's like capturing an entire symphony in a single note. How you gonna do that?
Yeah.
But I love the intention. You need the ideal, right? So.
But if you, I don't know about a single note, but it's certainly in a chorus. Yeah, chord.
In a chord, right? Yeah, makes sense. There is a good visual there too, for sure. We didn't talk about music, but it kind of wrap everything together. Listen, Pen, I really enjoyed this story. So the story that you share with me, that you share with the audience, I feel lucky doing this because, like I said, I do it for my passion, but I learn a lot from this conversation. I bring it with me to the next conversation for the things that I do. So I'm very, very grateful for the time that I spent with people like you that are willing to share and inspire others as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to explore. I'm still learning, and it's really helpful. I'm asking questions about what I do. I don't know quite what I do, but it makes me look at myself.
We are all still learning. I think that make us humble and willing to keep discovering and changing. I think that's an important message right there. So for everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed the show, the episode. You're watching it on YouTube, that's great. If you're listening to the podcast, that's great as well. So be sure to subscribe. I'll bring more beautiful story here, and maybe I'll be able to bring Pen back, and we talk about other things like technology and art. That will
be a pleasure. And I'd like to learn from you, as I said.
All right. Well, we'll learn from each other. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pen. Till the next one. Take care.
Thank you, Marco.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Audio Signals Podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. If you learned something new and this conversation made you think, then take a moment to rate this show and add it to your favorite podcast player. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this episode with your friends, family, and colleagues. We invite you to come back for more stories and follow Marco Ciappelli on his social media as he continues musing on stories, storytelling, and storytellers.